Bill Belichick doesn't really need an introduction to most NFL fans. He led the Patriots to 6 Super Bowl championships, has experience as an elite defensive coordinator, and when he was let go at the end of the season, many thought it would be just weeks until he got a job. So many teams around the league have a dumpster fire of a situation going on in the head coaching role, and many teams have spent decades cycling through unproven head coaches that couldn't coach their way out of a paper bag. Yet here we are at the start of the NFL season, and Belichick is still out of the job, but just why is this happening? You would think that a legendary run like that would have teams lining up to have a coach like Bill. Instead, he's going to be watching the games from the sideline next to his 24-year-old girlfriend. Shout out to Bill for bridging the generation gap and making sure the boomer influence stays for Gen Z. Obviously, that was a joke, but I do find it surprising that there weren't any teams that even wanted to seriously take a look at Belichick for a coaching role. Today on FootballLore, we will be investigating reports about just why this ended up going down the way it did. Coming into the offseason, 7 teams had parted ways with their head coaches and had vacancies in place. Bill has had reports of being a difficult coach to play for, but that has usually been offset by the fact that he does nothing but win on the field. I personally thought that reports of these difficulties were probably a bit exaggerated, but the fact that only one franchise was willing to seriously interview Bill Belichick implies there might be a little bit more to the story. Even if you were a franchise like the Commanders who wanted a coach for the long future, a 72-year-old man was not exactly what you were looking for. The Falcons instead were the only team to even seriously interview Bill for a coaching role. The fact that 6 NFL teams completely passed on even bringing him into the building means that something is going on. My personal theory is that someone like Belichick with a laundry list of achievements, a winning record, and nearing the end of his career is in a position where he wants a vast majority of control over football operations. Belichick isn't the type to take orders from a GM and work with coordinators he didn't personally choose, and I could see teams with a strong GM already in place just avoiding the situation altogether. There have also been rumors that relations between Robert Kraft, who owns the Patriots, and Bill were starting to become tense, so team owners may have been a bit apprehensive because of this. Belichick isn't someone you can just pluck from the side and stick into the head coach position. He comes with an entire change in franchise culture. I do think a lot of teams desperately need a huge infusion of culture, but if you're a GM barely hanging on to your job, bringing in an earth mover like Belichick could potentially end that tenure even sooner. I also think the fact his last few seasons in New England weren't the greatest has something to do with it too. Father time is something that none of us are going to beat. Eventually, we are all going to get old and gray and fade into old age. Bill has won 6 Super Bowls, which is an insane feat, but his last few seasons made him seem more like an elderly coach who was past his prime. While Tom Brady was still winning games in Tampa, Bill was trying to make the Patriots seem stable in any way and failed miserably. He is a 72-year-old man. He has had an incredible coaching career, but there is reason to believe his best days might be behind him. I don't say this disrespectfully. I think a Bill Belichick at 80% is better than most coaches at 100%, but as an organization, is it the best move to sign a 72-year-old head coach who is past his prime? Even if he has a few years left in the tank, he is more of a rental than a franchise piece. You would have to totally change the team culture, possibly change personnel, change the practice regime, and after changing all that, it isn't like he is going to coach for another decade. At this point in his career, he is going to be a solid coach for a few more years if he gets the chance, and that is an awful lot of changes to make for someone who is going to be there for a short time. It would be like signing Tom Brady to a 1-year deal and then blowing your cap up to stack him with talent for 1 year. If it works out, that's awesome, but it's a big risk to commit that much money to something that could fail. The Falcons going with Raheem Morris also shows that age is going to be a big problem for Bill. A lot of these younger coaches have a lot of room to improve and also expect a lot less control. From an organizational perspective, it can be better to invest into a younger coach with a potential upside than hire someone about to retire. So many teams passed on him, and reports originating from The Atlantic say a lot of it also had to do with the amount of control he was demanding when it came to his contract. Belichick had total control in New England. We already discussed that, but apparently had told teams before even meeting with them that he wanted the same. After the last few poor seasons he had, alongside being 72, going into meetings making demands just wasn't something that teams really wanted to deal with. The bigger the game gets, the more rare coaches like Belichick are going to get. The days of a coach also having total GM power are going to go away as the stakes get higher. I think at this point it would be best for Bill's career to let go of needing to be the GM of the team and instead just focus on coaching. He is an incredible coach and coordinator, but his GM skills have never been the best. The Patriots are not notorious for drafting well. Their best draft pick was a 6th rounder that they never intended to let start, for crying out loud. In the last few years, there have been rumors that Bill has been overruling the rest of the coaching staff when it comes to draft picks, and the Patriots have been bust city for quite some time. It would be different if Bill was one of the best drafting coaches of all time. If he was constantly making insane steals late in the round and then turning them into all NFL players, we'd be having a different conversation. The Patriots didn't draft as bad as the Browns, but they weren't developing draft talent like the Steelers or Packers were. It's gotta be hard to be in Bill's position. You've been in total control of a franchise for 2 decades, won 6 Super Bowls, did whatever you wanted, whenever you wanted, because that building was yours. Now he has to accept that a lot of that power and freedom is never going to come back if he wants to stay a coach in the league. I also can't say I would blame him if he decided to retire and ride off into the sunset at this point either. He doesn't have to give up power if he doesn't want to. He can also go sit on his yacht with his girlfriend and go cast a few games every season to keep the money flowing. He has tens of millions of dollars and isn't beholden to the league unless they are going to give him exactly what he wants. I also think, unfortunately, the entire Brady-Belichick dilemma has left many thinking that Bill was not the special sauce that made the Patriots so great through their era. Tom Brady left the Patriots and went on to win a Super Bowl on the Buccaneers. Their offense was elite, and Brady looked like he was playing 10 years younger than he was. The Patriots, however, botched Mac Jones and have been mediocre in the years since Brady left. Sure, while the two were together, they were the winningest combo in football, but Belichick hasn't been anywhere near as good without the greatest quarterback of all time to play around. The details that have come out about his negotiations with teams has shed light on what he wants as well. The 49ers allegedly said that he could take his pick of anything on the coaching staff other than head coach to have as a job. This is a great opportunity to be a defensive coordinator for a Super Bowl contender if being involved in the game was really what he wanted most. He turned this down to instead focus on trying to get a head coach role. This shows that he doesn't still want to work purely out of the love of the game. There is a level of still wanting to control a team and build a contender himself. He could have been spending time in California, coaching an elite defense, and probably getting himself at least another NFC Championship appearance. That wasn't good enough. He really does want to be back in a position where he is king of the castle overlooking his kingdom. He doesn't want to be a cog in the machine of the NFL. He wants to be the man pressing the buttons to operate it in the first place. Bill doesn't seem like he has any interest in being anything other than a head coach. He has spent too much time on top of the mountain and doesn't want to take a single step down. The Falcons also were told pretty much that he expected to have as much control as the literal owner does. That, combined with age, is one of the main reasons they decided to go in a different direction. As much as I think Belichick will always have a place in the game's history, I really just don't think he is going to have another job as a head coach in the NFL. Maybe I'm dead wrong and people are watching this after he signs to the Jaguars in 2032. I just don't think any team is going to sign a 72-year-old man to a contract where they have to remold their entire organization to him. He might have some capability left, but it's just too much baggage for an NFL team to want to deal with. This is like watching a Roman emperor get too old to control the legions. You know his time as a ruler is coming to an end, and there is nothing you can do about it. We will look back on the Belichick era for some of the greatness it has produced, but sadly, I think the best days of Bill are behind him. That's the way life goes. He just needs to spend his retirement blowing his millions of dollars and dating women that could be his granddaughter, the way every NFL player should spend his old age. I think that Bill Belichick has seen his last NFL snap from a head coach perspective, unless he is willing to take a serious step back and relinquish a lot of the control over a team that he desires. I just don't think anyone will be willing to take the risk. I don't foresee him being willing to go for that, so chances are he's done. It's sad to see such a legendary career come to an end, but it's something that was going to happen regardless of how badly Bill wants to maintain control. He will always have a spot as one of the best coaches in the history of the game, and no doubt will be a Hall of Famer as soon as he is eligible, but the day days of him being commander of a franchise are most likely well behind him. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this video will make me look stupid one day, but that is a risk I'm willing to take. If you appreciate the video and are at least amused by the risk, then be sure to press the like button and leave a comment down below. We are trying to hit 10,000 subscribers this year and post stuff like this regularly, so be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to never miss another video.